Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, taking a look at the pre-built PC market over on Amazon right now. We've got a total of 10 PCs picked out. And the last time I did a video like this, I want to say, was a month or so ago, and prices have really fluctuated since then, and by fluctuate, I mean even go up, mostly go up, that is. Really, the PC market, as far as video cards go, that's really the driving force of PCs being so expensive. Video card market is more volatile than the stock market right now, and honestly, it's just going up and up, so it's really not volatile. Let's just keep going up. I mean, at some point, there is going to be a bubble burst, and you can't expect GPUs to stay at this price forever. I'm sure they are going to get lower and lower. Now, actually ascertaining when that break point is going to be is probably a little bit out of my pay grade, so let's just assess what is available on Amazon, and I want to go through this relatively quickly. Links will be in the description box below. If you buy anything, I get a bit of a kickback, so that's appreciated. But first of all, for $645, we have the AVGPC MS30 gaming PC. This is with a Ryzen 3 1200, 4-core CPU at 3.1 GHz, and you get a GTX 1650, 8GB of DDR4, a 240GB SSD, which is pretty limiting, and obviously you get Windows 10 to boot. That's what you're going to notice with a lot of these PCs. Some of the manufacturers are trying to cut corners in some areas to keep the price a little bit lower, or, you know, not charge too much for the GPU portion of the PC. So here, a 240GB SSD, I'm sure is serviceable for a lot of people, but I think a majority of people, that's not going to be enough. You'd ideally want a 1TB, but yeah, them's the breaks with a pre-built PC. And it's kind of just how it's going. A $645 for that. For $660, if you would rather go the Intel route, you do get an Intel Core i3 10100F, 3.6 GHz, 8GB of RAM, a GTX 1650 as well. By the way, those are both 4GB 1650s, so that should be noted. And then with this one, you do get a 480GB SSD, so that is pretty relevant. I mean, double the storage, and you're spending what? About $20 more, but you do also get a Core i3 instead of the Ryzen 3, and it's a Ryzen 3 1200, so you really have to, it's a 1200, it's a generation old, so that's a little bit unfortunate as well, a couple generations, I should say. But yeah, that is an Intel option from iBUYPOWER that I thought was pretty decent relative to what else is out there. The iBUYPOWER gaming PC TraceMR 9310 is actually relatively decent. It's got a Ryzen 5 3600 3.6 GHz, an RX 5500 XT 4GB. Now, ideally you would want an 8GB, but a 5500 XT is pretty good. 8GB of RAM, 240GB SSD, so yeah, that's a bummer as well. You're gonna have to get some more storage. Ideally, I mean, some people again can get by, but I think that's going to be the fringe. 8GB of RAM, which again you would ideally want 16, but at this price point I think 8 is pretty serviceable. 8 in general is pretty serviceable. Ideally you do want to go to 16 at some point. The 5500 XT 4GB, going for around $400 to $500 from what I can see on eBay right now, so that is covering the majority of the price of the build. So A15 isn't that terrible given that what 5500 XTs are going for. There is the iBUYPOWER Pro Gaming PC Revolt 2. This has an i5 10600KF, 4.1 GHz, a GTX 1660 Super, which is pretty good. 8GB of DDR4 RAM, 240GB SSD with a 1TB hard drive, so that's nice, and it's $850. Not a fan of the case of this build, but let's see how much a 1660 Super 6GB is, to give you guys an idea. So it's $850 for that build. 1660 Supers are going for around $500 to $500 to $600. So yeah, that is covering again a pretty large portion of the build. $850, seemingly for everything else isn't too bad. Skytech Blaze 2 gaming PC, Ryzen 5 3600, GTX 1660 Ti, 500GB SSD, 8GB DDR4, B450 motherboard is $1,000. I mean, again, a 1660 Ti is what's driving the majority of the price. Let us look up how much a 1660 Ti is going for, and that will be around $650 to $700. Seeing a couple listings for $1,000. I would not be buying a 1660 Ti for $1,000, given that this entire PC is $1,000. So yeah, you can check that out, but yeah, crazy prices over on eBay. Okay, so that's $1,000. Now we're getting into the above $1,000 territory. MSI MPG Trident 3 is within Intel Core i7-10700F, Geforce RTX 2060, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 512 gigabyte SSD plus 1 terabyte of hard drive space. This is $1,300, $1,330, I should say. Now, this is actually pretty comparable to how much a PS5 is going for, so I mean, an RTX 2060 and a PS5, those are relative. I mean, that's a good PC. I mean, if you were to pick to pay $1,300 for a PS5 or to pay $1,300 for this PC, probably would go with this PC, given that you also get 512 gigabyte SSD, a 1 terabyte hard drive, 16 gigabytes of memory. I mean, you can go back and forth. There's a lot of other things to, you know, pick up and decide on, but, you know, $1,330, it's not the greatest price in the world. Obviously, it's not ideal. And this PC is going for a different kind of look, so that is something. It really does have the form factor, a very reminiscent of a console, so that is something to consider as well. But $1,330, like, I'm not going to say it's a good price. You can't say it's a good price, but given how much RTX 2060s are, which we'll give you guys the rundown on that, I imagine they are quite expensive. Yeah, so you're looking at $700 or so for a 2060. Okay, next up we have the Gamer Xtreme VR gaming desktop, Intel Core i5-10400F, 6-core up to 4.3 gigahertz. This has a 1660 Super, and the beneficial element of this PC is it does have 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD. It's $1,175. I would probably go with the $1,000 Skytech Blaze 2 with a 1660 Ti. Little bit cheaper, and it has an 8 gigabyte RAM configuration and a 500 gigabyte SSD, but those are upgrades you can make. I just wanted to throw out the option for that if you did want to go the Intel route with the 1660, so that is an option if you do want to go that route. Next up, we have the Skytech Shadow 3. This is a Ryzen 5 3600 with an RTX 3060, 12 gigabytes of RAM, which is definitely serviceable. With an RTX 3060, that's 12 gigabytes, 1 terabyte SSD, and 16 gigabyte DDR4 3000. Now, this is pretty good, all things considered. Let's look up the price of the 3060 so we get a better idea of, how much of the build that's taking up, because that is going to be the biggest chunk of change. So, oh my god, okay, so this is going for like $1,000, $750 is the lowest I'm seeing. This is a brand new listing. I imagine that's going to sell relatively quickly if that's not a paper edition. $900 to $1,000 is like the regular price seemingly for a 3060. So, yeah, it's not the greatest price for a 3060, of course, but to get everything else for, let's say $550, $600, that's actually pretty good with Windows as well. So, yeah. And then we have the Skytech Chronos with a Ryzen 7 3700X, an RTX 3070, 8GB, and a 16GB RAM configuration, 1TB NVMe, B550 motherboard, 650-watt gold power supply. That is $2,100, $2,124. The RTX 3070 is crazy expensive right now. I believe the 3070 is going for comparable prices to the PlayStation 5. Yeah, it's about $1,300 maybe. Okay, there's a listing for $13,000. I don't think anybody's going to pay that. But yeah, $1,300 is the going price for a 3070. So to get a Ryzen 7, 1TB NVMe, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 650-watt gold power supply, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. So that's a 3070 pre-built. And then there's another 3070 pre-built. That would be the Skytech Omega gaming PC. That has a Ryzen 7 5800X, so that's very nice. RTX 3070, 8GB, 16GB of DDR4, 1TB NVMe, X570 motherboard, 750-watt gold power supply, and that's $2,300. Now, that is going to wrap up the listings. I would have included an RTX 3080 build, but honestly, guys, like, those PCs with a 3080 are so expensive right now. Like, the cheapest 3080 PC that I saw was for about $3,300. So I just bought a PC with a 3080 for $1,800 late last year, to give you guys an idea of how much pre-built PC prices have been escalating. So that's pretty unfortunate, but yeah, kind of the lay of the land right now. Is it ideal time to buy a PC? Absolutely not, but when do I think it's going to get better? This is completely out of my pay grade. Maybe it'll be by the end of the year. I was hoping for by the spring, but it's probably not going to be by the spring. So, links to everything in the description box below. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.